The aroma of burnt firewood lingered in the small kitchen, mingling with the scent of damp cement walls and cold steel pots. Outside, the wind howled softly against the corrugated iron roof, but inside that kitchen, a young woman lay curled on a tattered mat near the hearth. Her belly rose gently beneath her wrapper, swollen with life. She was 7 months pregnant, yet tonight, just like the past 3 months, she would sleep on the cracked floor, wrapped only in silence and pain. Her name was Amara, a 24-year-old woman who once dreamed of motherhood wrapped in love and care. But instead, she found herself discarded like an unwanted dish in her husband's family home in eastern Nigeria. What her in-laws didn't know, or perhaps refused to see, was that the secrets they buried years ago were about to rise, unearthing truths darker than any hatred they showed her. And at the center of it all was a man they all revered, Papa Desmond, her father-in-law. But before this story unfolds, you must understand how Amara's life took this cruel turn, and why her sleeping in the kitchen would only be the beginning of something far more terrifying. Amara had met Desmond in Lagos, both of them fresh graduates pursuing internships. Desmond, with his quiet charisma and calculated charm, seemed like the kind of man who could offer peace in a chaotic world. He told Amara he came from a disciplined Christian family in Owerri, the kind that valued tradition and order. She was warned by friends that quiet men like Desmond often came with quiet storms, but love is louder when you're young and hopeful. They married in a modest ceremony. Desmond insisted she relocate to his family's home temporarily while they saved up for a place of their own. Amara agreed, unaware she was walking into a den disguised as a home. The first 2 weeks were tolerable. Mama Desmond kept her distance, neither warm nor hostile. The father-in-law, a retired headmaster known as Papa Desmond, was stern but respectful. But then came the change. It started with the small jabs. "You don't know how to cook Owerri? What kind of woman did my son marry? You sleep too much. Pregnancy is not a disease." Then came the more calculated cruelties. At first, her room was taken over by visiting cousins, forcing her to sleep in the corridor. Then, when she mistakenly broke an old plate one morning, Mama Desmond barked, "You don't respect this house. Go and sleep in the kitchen. Let your spirit learn humility there." Desmond said nothing. He never said anything. When she begged him at night, he simply mumbled, "Just manage for now. Don't make issues. You know how my family can be." Amara's body ached from sleeping on the cold floor. Some nights, she wrapped herself around her swollen belly, trying to protect the child from the bitterness that hung in the air. Roaches crawled near her mat. The stifling heat from the clay stove made her nauseous. Her skin was always itchy. Yet nobody cared. They treated her like a stray dog. What kept her going was the child, her child. She whispered to her unborn baby at night, sang lullabies into the smoke-stained air, and promised better days. But she was alone. Utterly alone. Until one day, Papa Desmond changed. It was a slow change. He began dropping by the kitchen more often, asking if she had eaten, handing her slices of boiled yam or leftover meat when Mama Desmond wasn't looking. At first, Amara thought it was just pity. But then came the glances, long, uncomfortable stares that lingered on her belly, her face, and even her chest. Then, one night, he came in and sat quietly near the door while she stirred the pot. "You remind me of someone," he said, voice low. She turned, confused. "Sir?" "My younger sister. She also had big dreams. But they ruined her," he said, eyes far away. Amara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. "Ruined her how?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stood and left. Over the next few days, he brought her pap and fruits. Sometimes a sachet of milk. No one else in the house cared if she ate or not. And though she felt disturbed by his presence, she couldn't deny the tiny relief in the small kindness he offered. But one night, everything changed. She had fallen asleep near the stove when she felt a hand on her shoulder. Startled, she turned. It was Papa Desmond, crouched beside her mat. "Don't scream," he whispered. Amara's breath caught in her throat. Her heart pounded. I need to tell you something, he said, staring at the wall. This family, it's not what you think. He looked down, ashamed. Years ago, when Desmond was still in primary school, I did something unforgivable. Amara's chest tightened. I had a housemaid. A young girl named Chica. She was 15. I forced myself on her repeatedly. Nobody knew. My wife thought she left because she was lazy. But Chica left because she was pregnant. And that child grew up somewhere out there. He paused. I've looked for them. I tried to find them after I repented. But Amara's stomach turned. Why are you telling me this? He looked at her with a tremble in his lips. Because I think you may be her. Amara stood slowly, her legs weak. What? I saw your mother once. Years ago. In a church vigil in Enugu. She was with a girl, about 16. She looked so much like Chica. I tried to talk to them, but they left. When I saw your wedding photo with Desmond, I knew. I knew it in my bones. Amara backed away. You think Desmond is my brother? Papa Desmond's eyes glistened with tears. Yes. She screamed. She didn't care if the whole house heard. She screamed until Mama Desmond burst into the kitchen, demanding what was wrong. But Amara only cried harder, repeating, God forbid. God forbid. Amara didn't sleep that night. She sat on the floor of the kitchen, back against the cold wall, tears dry on her cheeks, mind torn between disbelief and horror. The fire had long gone out, but her skin still burned, not from heat, but shame, confusion, and rage. What Papa Desmond said couldn't be true. It shouldn't be true. But deep inside her, a small voice whispered that it might be. She had always wondered why her mother refused to talk about the identity of her father. Any time Amara asked, her mother would deflect or grow visibly upset. All she'd ever known was that she was born after a painful chapter in her mother's life. Could this be the chapter? When the morning came, she didn't speak to anyone. Her in-laws moved about as though nothing had happened. Desmond had left early for work, and Mama Desmond made no comment about the screams from the night before. Perhaps she thought it was another pregnancy breakdown. But Papa Desmond avoided her eyes. Later that afternoon, when the house was quiet, Amara called her mother. Mama! I need to ask you something. Please don't lie. There was silence on the line. Then her mother said softly, What is it? Did you work for a man named Desmond Nwoke, years ago? As a housemaid? Her mother's sharp inhale said everything. Mama! Did he? Yes. Her voice cracked. He raped me, Amara. He ruined me. I ran away with you in my belly. I couldn't bear the shame. I thought I'd never have peace again. Amara dropped the phone. She couldn't breathe. The world tilted. Her husband was her half-brother. The man whose child she now carried was her blood. The shame rippled through her like sickness. She dry-heaved into the corner of the kitchen, her baby kicking inside her belly as if responding to the chaos. She didn't wait for evening. With trembling hands, she packed her few clothes and stepped out of the kitchen, her eyes swollen but fierce. Mama Desmond stood on the veranda, peeling cassava. Where are you going? She asked, frowning. I'm leaving. Leaving to where? To a place where people don't treat pregnant women like trash. And to get away from a family built on secrets and lies. Mama Desmond squinted. What nonsense are you saying? Amara didn't answer. She just turned and walked out the gate with her bag, not even looking back. She didn't know where she was going, maybe to a women's shelter, maybe to her aunt in ABA. But she knew she could no longer stay. Later that night, Desmond returned to find her gone. He stormed into his father's room demanding answers. That was when everything spilled out, from Papa Desmond's crime to the possibility that Amara was his daughter. Mama Desmond screamed. Desmond collapsed. And the family that prided itself on discipline and honor shattered in seconds. 3 weeks later, Amara stood in front of a modest yellow-painted clinic in ABA, her hands resting gently on her stomach. She had found shelter with her late mother's cousin, a quiet widow who opened her doors without question. For the first time in months, Amara was sleeping in a real bed. She could feel her baby stretch and move freely within her, no longer disturbed by smoke, hunger, or fear. But inside her heart, the storm still raged. She had not spoken to Desmond since she left. Not because she didn't miss him, she did. But how do you love someone when every memory is now tainted by the blood that binds you? The man who made her feel safe turned out to be the son of her rapist, her own brother. That thought alone made her skin crawl. And then there was the baby. The innocent life growing inside her. Was the child a blessing, or a continuation of the curse that began with a single monstrous act 2 decades ago? She didn't know. But she knew she would never abandon it. One afternoon, as she lay beneath a ceiling fan that hummed like a lullaby, her phone rang. It was Desmond. She stared at the screen for several seconds before answering. Amara. She said nothing. I know you hate me. I hate myself too. I didn't know. I swear on everything, I didn't know. I believe you, she whispered. I've done a DNA test. Papa's story, it was true. You're his daughter. You're my sister. His voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Amara's chest ached, but no tears came. I don't know what to feel, Desmond. I just want peace. Are you keeping the baby? She hesitated. Then answered, yes. It's not the child's fault. There was silence. Then he said, I want to help. Not as a husband. But, maybe as a brother. And as the father, in the way I can be, within boundaries. I need time, she said, voice trembling. I need space to heal. I understand, he replied. Before the call ended, he whispered, You're brave, Amara. Stronger than all of us. I wish I had defended you when they made you sleep in that kitchen. I'll carry that guilt forever. She ended the call without a word. The months passed. Amara gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, Chisholm, meaning God is with me. Her tiny fingers curled around Amara's as if assuring her that new beginnings were possible. The pain didn't disappear overnight, but motherhood gave her purpose. Desmond began therapy. He left his family home and cut ties with his father. He supported Amara financially, quietly, respectfully, never asking for more than she could give. As for Papa Desmond, his community soon discovered the scandal. The once respected elder lost his reputation, his standing, and most painfully, the respect of his wife and son. Mama Desmond, broken by the revelation, left him and moved to her sister's village. He spent his final days alone, tormented by the child he wronged and the granddaughter he would never hold. Years later, Amara sat under a mango tree, watching Chisholm chase chickens in the yard, her laughter ringing through the air like bells. Amara had rebuilt her life, not through wealth or vengeance, but through survival, healing, and truth. When young women came to her with their stories of abuse, she listened. She helped. She opened a small center for women who had nowhere to go. Her pain had become her strength, her wounded door to help others find freedom. And sometimes, late at night, when she lay in bed holding Chisholm close, she whispered, I was forced into darkness, but I found my way out. Because even in the harshest flames of injustice, a woman, especially an African woman, can rise. This story reminds us that cruelty within families often hides behind silence. That traditions which excuse abuse and mistreatment are poison to the soul of society. That generational sins can only end when someone dares to expose them and chooses healing over silence. Every woman deserves dignity, especially when she carries life. And every child deserves to be born into truth, not shame. Let us raise our voices for the Amaras in our communities before the kitchen floor becomes their prison.